Let's go back in time. As usual. It's 2001 and the Game Boy Advance was just released, but until the next generation of Pokemon games arrive, it's going to be a year. Or two. But that 2003 release date isn't relevant to this sneaky little guy. Granbo is a turn-based monster collecting RPG released on the 28th of December of 2001 and was developed and published by Capcom. It came out nearly an entire year before Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, but as you've probably guessed, it never got anywhere near Pokemon's popularity. Which is honestly a shame because it's actually a pretty decent game overall, earning it the status of obscure cult classic. I'm here to tell you why. The game's title, Granbo, refers to the robots that you will encounter throughout the game, which are modeled after all sorts of animals, like dogs, cats, dinosaurs, birds, etc. They are summoned through machines called mecha eggs, in which you insert things called data balls. These balls contain the data of a certain Granbo. In practice, it's basically the equivalent to your party members. You get up to 3 mecha eggs as you progress in the game, allowing you to summon 3 Granbos in battle, from a selection of 6 balls, which is the most you can carry with you. People who train these robots are called Granbo Sabers. The game kicks off with a girl and a dangerous looking Granbo running away from a creep that's always smiling and another dangerous looking Granbo. She's not very successful and they end up clashing with each other, at which point the game shifts to the player character and his grandfather. It's your 10th birthday, which means you can now become a which means you can now become a Granbo Saber. Grandpa takes you to the local pet store, where you get to pick one of 3 Granbos to start with. You have Piorica, the chick Granbo for people who follow the safety first mantra, Yabusa, the Falcon Granbo indicated for those who believe that offense is the best defense, and finally Foco, the Fox Granbo that can use a wide array of attacks. All of them are fire elemental, which is kind of unusual. Once you've picked the Falcon since he's the coolest, you see the girl and Grandpa from the initial cutscene demonstrating their lack of knowledge on how to land safely. Luckily for her, she is only knocked unconscious. After rescuing and bringing her to your shack, she introduces herself as Shizuku, but refuses to explain her situation. Unluckily for her, the mech egg she was carrying is broken and unusable. Before she can be convinced to trust a pair of strangers, the town gets attacked by Team Rocket. The town gets attacked by the Sky Sharks, a group of evildoers. The creep who was chasing her shows up and demands that Shizuku surrenders her balls. She complies in the hopes of stopping the Sky Sharks, but how naive she is. Now's your chance to shine. It's time for you to go out there, pull a miracle victory with your brand new partner and save the damsel in distress. You're the protagonist, there's no way you can lose this. Oh. She gets taken away by that creepy jerk, but it's too soon to give up. Your adventure starts now. While the plot isn't anything exceptional, it's a decent excuse to travel the world. You'll get the chance to explore various continents, each with their own wild Granbo to see and collect. You will meet various characters, some friendly, some less than friendly. There's a bit of repetition, with you receiving news of a Sky Shark attack somewhere else every time you solve a continent's problems. Their actions get worse as the plot progresses, and they seem to be looking for a place called the World Change Tower. The fight against the Sky Sharks begins now. Yay. Soon after the resident damsel in distress goes on an unwanted vacation, you find the hunting glove, letting you grab the balls of wild Granbos. Instead of throwing your own balls at the enemies, in this game you use hunting skills. Every Granbo can use the basic hunt skill, which costs 25% of their maximum energy, to try and get the target's data ball. Some Granbos can also learn a couple of special hunting skills with various effects. The chance to successfully grab their balls depends on the hunting gauge, which rises whenever the wild Granbo takes damage. You can also either use some food items to increase the rate at which it rises for a few turns, or inflict them with status effects, like lower attack or the Virus status, which causes damage every turn. However, even with these items and status effects active, the hunting gauge sometimes rises slower than the damage you inflict, and the chances for a successful hunt are extremely low until it's nearly full. The status effects that, well, have an effect on the hunting gauge also function on a case-by-case basis. In Pokemon, status like Sleep and Poison raise the catch rate for every single wild Pokemon. In Granbo, Virus increases the hunting gauge's rate for some but not all, lowering attacks works for some but not for others, etc. The hunting skills also cause damage, which although very low, means that you can end up just knocking out the wild Granbo. This leads to a lot of frustration when trying to get even the most common of data balls. An in-game tip indicates that you should cripple the Granbo, giving the example of lowering the speed of Granbos with high speed. But, how do you know what the Granbo's highest stats are until you catch it? Why can some of these robots get affected by a virus but not others? This ties into the evolution system. Instead of evolving at certain levels, you can perform evolution at any time, providing you have the required Granbo in your possession. Sometimes there are slots for which you can select any Granbo, which can lead to a special evolution in a select few cases. Naturally, you lose the Granbos used in the evolution, but the resulting Granbo gets a 10% boost to all of its stats. There's also an option to reset a Granbo, reducing them back to level 1. According to the in-game tips, this makes them stronger than if you raised them from the level they were on when you caught them, but warns you that it also causes them to lose the 10% evolution bonus. There are 5 basic stats: HP, Energy, Attack, Defense, and Speed. Energy, or EN for short, is basically the equivalent of MP or Mano or whatever other games call it. The other stats should be obvious. A Granbo can use a regular attack for free, but can also learn up to 4 special moves at a time in addition to the regular hunt skill. These cost different amounts of EP and have a variety of effects. One unfortunate aspect of the battle mechanics is that moves don't have their own individual types, instead using the Granbo's type, in a similar fashion to Telefang 1. And it just so happens that there are only 4 types in the game: Fire, Water, Wood, and Dark, the last of which you don't see until several hours into the game. That said, the game does try to give the mechanics some depth. Every Granbo's weakness and resistance plays a huge role in how effective they are against enemies, so keeping a balanced set of balls and swapping between them whenever needed is important. This is especially true because although you can freely swap between the 6 balls you can carry, if a Granbo is taken down, the mech egg that they were using is then rendered unusable. In other words, you can have 3 active Granbos out at once, but if they get KO'd, you're stuck with 1 less active Granbo, even if you have 5 remaining. This of course also applies to enemy trainers. The game doesn't tell you how many Granbos they have or what type they are, so you need to stay prepared in case they switch. While the random battles aren't too tough, these boss battles can prove to be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're like me and miss the mech egg. One cool non-battle related mechanic is Grand Change. The various continents are associated with one of the elemental types, but in them you can find the Grand Change Towers. By depositing a Granbo in them, the continent will change to fit said Granbo's type. This not only changes the looks and layout of the continent, but also the wild Granbos you can find in them. This is required at various points in the story, but you'll also be able to change them as you want. It's only a shame that you can only change the continents to darkness and the element that is strong against the base element. For example, the game starts in Woodina, which, as you've probably guessed, is associated with wood. You can grand change it into either fire or dark, but not water. The graphics are alright. They are colorful and, how can I explain this, have a very clean look to them. Battles don't flood the screen with rotating and scaling sprites, and the Granbos pop out easily from the background. I'd say that the biggest problem with it lies in the designs themselves, because every Granbo of a respective element uses the same color scheme. Every fire Granbo is red or orange, every wood Granbo is green, every water Granbo is blue, and every dark Granbo is purple. This makes the designs feel very samey. The music is equally alright, and that's really the only evaluation that comes to mind. It's not bad, but not particularly exciting either. It does its job. A lot of it is bright and energetic, but there are some more mellow tracks for the nasty parts of the game. One thing I can point out is the few occasions where you hear human voices. They sound out of place in such a cartoony game. All in all though, Granbo is a pretty decent game that could use some more recognition. Yes, I know, I spent half of the video slamming it, but I enjoyed my time with it. It doesn't have annoying interface problems, the story and characters are alright, it's colorful and the gameplay is good enough. And hey, it was released in a single version. Not even Pokemon got that right.